Today, we're moving over into creating more custom WordPress websites by adding in custom data using things like custom post types, taxonomies, meta fields, and so on. Now, if this is all new to you, don't worry, because in this video, I'm going to show you how you can take the popular MetaBox plugin and how you can create all these kinds of things for yourself, helping you get started creating more feature-rich websites. Before we do, let's break some of the terminology down so you kind of understand, first of all, what MetaBox does, but also terminology like custom post types, meta fields, and taxonomies. So first of all, MetaBox is a WordPress plugin that helps you add extra information to your website content, like posts and pages. For example, if you want to include a special section for customer reviews or product details, MetaBox makes it easy to create those extra fields. It's a tool that gives you more control over how your website works, but it does a lot more. Then we have custom post types. Now, custom post types are like special types of content you create on your WordPress website. By default, WordPress comes with a few types like blog posts and pages, but sometimes you should add something different like a section for recipes, events, or products. Custom post types let you create these types of content so you can organize and display them separately in a way that makes sense for your site. Then we have meta fields. Now, custom meta fields are extra information you can add to your WordPress content. Think of them like extra boxes where you can fill in specific details. For example, if you create a custom post type for recipes, you might want to add meta fields for cooking time, ingredients, or difficulty level. These fields let you organize and display unique details for each type of content, making your website more flexible and tailored to your needs. Meta fields work hand in hand with custom post types, helping you customize your content beyond WordPress basic options. Next up, there's taxonomies. Now, taxonomies in WordPress are a way to group and organize content so it's easier to find. WordPress already includes taxonomies like categories and tags for posts, but you can create custom taxonomies for your custom post types. For example, if you have that custom post type called recipes, you could create a custom taxonomy called cuisine with options like Italian, Indian, or Mexican. This helps you organize your recipes into groups so visitors can browse content more easily. Taxonomies and custom post types work together to keep your site's content structured and user-friendly. Now that you've checked off some of that terminology and explained what it is and what it means, let's turn our attention now to MetaBox, which allows us to create and set things up in a logical, organized fashion using the terminology and the tools we just talked about. So first of all, MetaBox, there's two versions. There's MetaBox Lite, which is the free version. I've covered that in its own video, which you can check out here. But there's also MetaBox, the full version, and that's what we are going to look at today. Why? Because it includes a lot more functionality than the Lite version does, and there's things inside here you may want to use in the future when you get up to speed with how MetaBox works. So first of all, once you've got MetaBox, you're going to need to install it. Now, generally, there's a couple of ways you can do this, but the easiest is going to be using the MetaBox all-in-one option. What this effectively means is all of the different add-ons and the bits and pieces you can expand the core basic MetaBox are all included, ready for you. So you don't have to mess about picking and choosing until you're more comfortable with the different options and which ones you may or may not want to use. So as you can see, I've already installed MetaBox and the all-in-one version. So once that's activated, we have MetaBox now on the left-hand side with a lot of different options. I'm not going to cover every option inside here because there's certain things inside here that will require their own dedicated video, like relationships and so on. So once you've got the basics under your belt, you can take a look at those videos to get more advanced options and understand how they work. So first of all, before we go any further, let's just jump into the extensions section because it's important to see what's going on here. So when you install the all-in-one version of MetaBox, these are all installed automatically for you. And this is the reason why I say it's easy to just go with this version, because you don't have to worry about thinking about what each one of these does and understanding them. You'll notice a couple of these are not going to be enabled because we don't have the related plugin installed. For example, you've got MetaBox, Beaver, Theme Integrator, Elementor, Facet WP, and so on. We don't have these plugins installed, so those options are not available to us. If you want to disable any of these, you can simply use the little checkbox. Once you've disabled it, hit Save Changes, and you are done. If you want to break things down into the various different sections, you can do. So for example, if you're looking for anything to do with data, you can click, there's all the data related options. Admin, for example, there's the admin ones, front end, and so on. You kind of get the idea. So various different parts of this will be covered in their own dedicated videos. Now before we move on, let's have a quick message from today's video sponsor, SEO Press. If you need help with SEO issues on your WordPress site, meet SEO Press Pro's Site Audit, a powerful tool to find and fix SEO problems fast. With over 50 tests across 13 categories, SEO Press helps you tackle issues from headings and keywords to meta descriptions and internal links. Make smarter decisions with Google Search Console integration for insights into clicks and rankings. Scan 1,000 URLs in just 5 minutes with full compatibility for all major page builders and themes. Take control of your SEO with SEOpress Pro's site audit and grow your site's visibility today. Visit seopress.org for more information. So now we've kind of ticked that off. Let's just go and take a look at how we get started. You'll see there's our post types, there's our custom fields, there's our taxonomies, the 3 terms we covered at the beginning of this video. Let's start off first of all with post types. This is the kind of starting point. We'll click and open this up. We get presented with a blank screen ready to start creating things. So we're going to add a new post type. Now, if you remember, a post type is simply a way of organizing your own custom information. Let's keep with the same analogy we used at the beginning with recipes. So first of all, plural name, singular name, and the slug. So the plural name, we put the singular name in, and you'll notice that automatically creates the slug. Now, if you're unsure what a slug is, this is just basically what will be tagged on at the end of your domain. So mydomain.com/recipe, and we could use that then to display all the recipes. That's basically all it means. Now, while you can change the slug, and there are going to be often times where you may want to, just bear in mind that if you do, you need to separate any spaces with an underscore or with a minus sign. Otherwise, you may have issues. Next, you see we've got the labels. Now, the labels are effectively what you'll see when you want to do things like add a new recipe, delete a recipe, edit a recipe, and so on. These are the basic placeholders. And as you can see, you can effectively just leave all of these as they are. Unless you have a reason to change them, the default values will do everything you want. If you jump into advanced, this is where you start to create the various different settings that apply to this particular custom post type. If you want to add a description in, you can do. Useful if you are using this for someone else, but if you're building it for yourself, you probably know what it means. But if you want to put a description in, you can say what it's about. Public, is this going to be available on the front end of the site so people can see it and so on? Yes, it is. Hierarchical. Even if you don't have a hierarchical setup for your custom post type, and all hierarchical basically means is you've got a parent, for example, a city, and then inside there you may have different boroughs. So they would be like the parent and the children. That's all a hierarchy is. But the reason why I say to enable it, even if you are not using that kind of structure, is it gives a nicer way of working inside the editor in WordPress. Instead of having to remember what things you typed in, you'll just have a long list and you can just tick off which one or which ones you want. Just looks a little bit nicer. Do you want to exclude it from the search? In most cases, you're not going to want to, but if you did need to, you can just check that option. Publicly queryable just effectively means, is this something that can be queried, as in filtered and so on the front end of the website? So if you want to use filters to be able to sort through data, great. If you have a recipe website or blog, you're going to want to have some kind of filtering and searching. You want to make sure that's enabled. Show UI, just show this in the user interface. Yes, we do. Where do you want to position this in the menu in your dashboard? So on the left-hand side where you've got all your menus, where do you want to pop it? You can see we can choose various different places. We'll say show this as a top level menu, and we'll say let's put this after dashboard. So it's going to go after dashboard before posts. Cool. Any icons you want to include, so we can look through here and find something we think is going to be relevant to what we have got, the data we're going to put in. We'll choose food from the list. Do you want to show in the nav menus and the admin bar and so on? So the admin bar is up the top here. So you'll say you can add inside there and the menus and so on. It's kind of just how it displays inside the dashboard of WordPress. So we say, yep. So we leave everything else there. We don't have to worry about these settings. We can leave them at their default. Has an archive? I would say yes in 99% of the cases, because if you want to display all your posts, that uses what's called an archive template. So if you've ever seen a website where you've got all your posts for your blog, for example, that's the archive. Then you've got the single post, which will show just the actual recipe itself. So we're going to say, yes, we want to have an archive. If you want to put a custom slug, you can do that, and a custom rewrite. Again, we're going to leave those as they are and accept the defaults. Do you want to prepend the permalink structure? So as you can see, this allows you to control whether it will have recipe / the name of the recipe itself, or whether it strips that out. This would then shorten the URL, make it a little bit easier to read. Again, a personal preference whether you do or don't want to use it. I'm going to leave it as it is. Query variables can export and delete with user. You can see we can hover over any of these and it'll tell us exactly what they relate to. We're going to leave those as they are so we can make sure that we've got the default query variable if we want to query the information. So going back to that search, we're going to leave it as it is. Can this be exported? So we can use the natural export option and import options we have inside WordPress. Generally, you're probably going to want to do that, especially if you're testing things out. Want to move that data to somewhere else. It's quite useful. Delete with user. What this means is if the user that creates this custom post type is deleted, do you want to trash this custom post type as well? So I'm going to say no. We want to leave this so once this is created, anybody can use it. And if me, as the user that's set everything up, is deleted, makes no difference. So there's the second part. Let's come into supports. And this is what basic native functions do we have as creating a post in WordPress that we want to enable. So if you create a normal WordPress post, you'll have the title, you'll have the content or the editor, an excerpt, the author, date and time, and so on, thumbnail for the featured image. Well, you can enable those different options inside here based upon the custom post type you're creating. Ours is recipes, so the title, the editor, and the thumbnail make absolute sense. You may also want to enable the excerpt to have this as like little snippet of what the recipe is about. Then we can click on taxonomies. We're not going to use any of the built-in taxonomies, but you can see we've got your categories and your tags, the native functions we have as part of WordPress itself, and patterns, which is part of the Gutenberg pattern library. We don't want those. We'll leave them as they are. Hop into features, and this is, do we want to allow them to be able to reorder the posts when they create them? Let's just say yes. So now you can click on Get PHP Code if you want to, or we can hit Publish. We're going to keep this really simple and just use the built-in functionality of WordPress itself and say Publish this. We don't want to worry about messing about with code and so on. Okay, so there's our custom post type created. Now, before we take a look at this main area and the new option that's popped up at the top, if we look at the navigation on the left-hand side, there's our recipes, all recipes, add new recipe. Come to the new at the top, you can see inside there we have recipe as well. So the options we set up when we created our custom post type, they've all been included in here as well. Now, if you're getting value from this video and you'd like to be notified when I release new content, why not hit that subscribe button down below? I release videos every single week, so you'll be the first to know when new content is released and you can check it out. Anyway, let's get back on with the tutorial on MetaBox. Okay, so now we've created our custom post type. The next logical thing is to add some additional custom fields to those basic native WordPress ones. So let's do that. We can either click on Add Custom Fields to this post type from this link at the top, or we can come into Custom Fields underneath the MetaBox menu. Both do the same thing, but if we do it this way, where we click on this at the top where we've created the custom post type, it'll set up some options for us so we don't have to do them. If you use the option for just going straight into the custom fields from the left-hand navigation, there's a few extra things you'd need to set up. I'll show you them anyway, so it doesn't matter which way you go in, but I just want to show you the difference. So let's click on Add Custom Fields. So that'll take us in now to the custom fields. First thing you can see is it's added a name for these custom fields in. So recipe fields. I'm going to change this to additional recipe fields. Before we start adding any fields in, let's just jump into the settings section. So inside here, this allows us to say what particular post type these fields, these meta fields, are going to be connected to. We're not limited to just one, but for simplicity, we are going to keep it to just one. Again, this is one of those things that's been set up for us because we chose that option after creating a custom post type. So the location, post type, recipe. So it's connected it up to our new custom post type. But you can see if we drop this down, we can choose from post types, taxonomies, users, all manner of different options. And inside the second field, we can click inside there and we can associate it with other things from here as well. We'll leave it as it is, but hopefully what you can see is we can choose different post types or locations and then say specifically what we want. Then we've got some additional things like toggle rules and conditional logic. So if you want to set up conditions for where and when these particular meta fields will be displayed, you can do. Again, it goes beyond what I want to cover in this particular foundation video. Then we've got our position. Where do we want these new custom meta fields to be displayed inside the editor of WordPress? So we can do it after content, so it'll sit underneath the editor and so on, like we'd normally see inside WordPress, or we can put it into the right-hand column. I like to keep it in the right-hand column or the side column if it's simple, basic information. If there's more, so like WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, editor information, you may want to keep this as part of the main body. Then we can choose the priority, so we can set this high and low, and we can choose the style between standard WordPress MetaBox or no MetaBox. These are just graphical ways, slight differences in the way it's displayed inside the editor. They don't make any difference to functionality, just the look. So play about with them, see which you prefer. Collapse by default, do you want it to be open or closed? We're going to say we want this to be open. And do you want to enable revisions? Well, again, it's up to you. You can choose your tab style, so you can choose between various different visual ways to display this. Let's just say, let's try box, see what happens there. And you want to have a default active tab ID. So if you have multiple tabs inside there, you can choose which one is default sort of displayed. You've then got saved data in a custom table. Now, I'll cover this in its own dedicated video, and this is beyond what I want to cover here. But let me just quickly say what it does. In WordPress, when you create custom post types and you add information in with custom meta fields and normal WordPress information and so on, it's all saved inside a complicated data structure inside your database with multiple entries. The problem with this is, as data builds up, you can get huge amounts of information in the database and slow things down. So what you can do inside MetaBox is you can take the custom meta fields you associate with either a custom post type or normal WordPress post types or anything else using those location rules we just covered. You can put those in their own dedicated tables. This means it strips the information out of WordPress normal database tables, puts it in its own, and therefore makes it just a little bit more performant. Again, don't worry about this in point in time. You can leave it as it is. And if you want to find out more, you can check out this video, again, linked in the description as well. So now we've set the settings up, let's go and add in a couple of fields. I'm going to keep this relatively simple to demonstrate how you do things, but there are a lot of different field types you can access here. So let's go and add a field in. We'll click the Add Field button, and inside there you can see there's a lot of different options here. Way too many to cover in this foundation video. So we're going to just take a look at a couple of different types and use those as a starting point. So let's start off with something really simple like a number. Let's search and add that in. Click to expand it, and you can see now we've got two different tabs. We've got our general and advanced. So under general, we can apply all the basic general information. So instead of the label of number, let's just say servings. You can see that updates the ID. The type is a number. Again, you can open this up and you could change it from here if you wanted to make a change. So we'll say we're fine with that. You can put a description in, an input description, your minimum value and so on, steps. And what these basically mean is, let's just say you're working with selling properties and you didn't want people to sort of put like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in. You wanted stages to be like in 5,000, 10,000 pound increments. You could set up what the step values are there. Default values, placeholder, all those kinds of things. They're all pretty self-explanatory. Required, do you want to make this a required field? So in this example, we'll say yes. Disabled, read only, no. Prepend text. In our example, we don't want to put anything inside there or append, so this will go at the beginning or the end of the text. Do you want to make this clonable so it could be duplicated? In this example, it doesn't make any sense. Do you want to show this in an admin column? Do you want to create an admin column for it? So we'll say yes, we do. You can set up what you want here. So we'll say the column title, content before or after. Is it sortable? So we'll say yes as a number. Searchable, filterable, you kind of get the idea. You can set up some nice options inside here for how you want this to display inside the admin. We'll leave everything else as it is. We'll hop into advanced and take a look there. Do you want to put anything before or after? Apply a custom CSS class to it. So if you want to be able to target this inside your CSS to customize the look, you could do that inside here. And there's also things like custom sanitized callbacks, so you can make sure what data is displayed. We're going to leave these, like I say, these are a bit more advanced to what I want to cover. But you want to apply any HTML5 attributes, any particular validation, so you can create custom rules inside here, required, custom error message. You can see you can set minimum length, maximum length, what type of data is it, it's a URL. You get the idea. There's a lot of options in there on how you can validate the data to make sure that people don't put data in a format that is not required or not acceptable. In our example, we just got a simple number, so that's fine. Conditional logic then allows you to easily choose when and how this is displayed. So for example, if we open this up, you can choose another field inside your meta fields to show or hide this one. So you may have a value inside one that triggers another value that needs to be input. You can set that up using conditional logic. Again, we'll take a look at these in more detail in their own dedicated videos, or we may take a look at actually building a more fully featured layout. So let's get rid of that for now. And we say we're happy with this, so we can click to close that down. Add another field in. This time, let's choose a WYSIWYG editor. So now we can open this up and do the same thing again. You'll see some slightly different values inside here because you've chosen a different format for our content. So instead of a numeric format, we've got a sort of text format with a WYSIWYG editor so we can format the text and so on. So for this, we're going to call this ingredients. Let's work our way through so we can set a text limit if we want to. So let's say we don't want any more than sort of 1,000 characters here. You can choose if you want to save the data in raw format, any editor options. So for example, you can open this up and you can choose various different values inside here. Again, it's beyond what we want to cover. Is it required? Yes. Is it clonable? No. Do we want to show it in an admin column? No, because this would be too much potential information. You kind of get the idea how this is going to work. Come into advanced, same options are here. So we can deal with any of these if we want to. Let's simply add one more field in. And this one, we'll do a number again. Click to open this up. Change this from number to calories per serving. Again, we'll set this to be required. Everything looks good. So we'll close that down. And we've now added in some custom meta fields connected up to our custom post type for our recipes. So let's just publish this. As you see, everything is now in place. If you want to make changes to this, we can do. So you can see at the point in time, we've got this sort of ID that doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's just change that. We can click, we can delete that, and we can put in something that makes more sense. These are useful later on when you want to actually output this information. So having things inside you that make sense are pretty useful. Okay, so we'll update this, and we've now added in some custom meta fields. Now let's go and take a quick look at them. So we come into recipes and go into all recipes. You can see title, servings, which we set to be displayed inside here, and the date. So let's add a new recipe. As you can see, we've got our title. So let's add a title in. We'll pop some content in. And if we go to the right-hand side and open the recipe up, you can see we can set our featured image. This one we'll do. We'll set our featured image. And if we take a look underneath, you can see there's our custom meta field. So servings, we'll say this has 2 servings. We have our WYSIWYG editor, which looks a bit silly over on the right-hand side, and we'll change that in a moment. We pasted some information inside there, and we'll scroll down, and we'll say calories per serving. There we go. So we've now created our first recipe. We'll publish this. Let's come back out of here, and there's our risotto. You can see there's our number of servings and when it was published. So pretty cool. You can see how easy it is to set that up. So let's come back into MetaBox a second, come into our custom fields, edit this, and come into our settings, and let's just change that option now. So instead of being on the side, let's just set this to be after content, and we'll hit update. Now if we go back in and take a look at our recipes, you can see instead of being over the right-hand side, if we scroll down, there's our information underneath, all operating in exactly the same way. So you've seen now how to create our custom post type, recipes in this example, how to add in some custom meta fields to that particular recipe. So the final thing we want to take a look at is how we can organize things, because currently they could just be any kind of recipe. So we need to use taxonomies to handle this. So again, we're going to come into MetaBox. This time we're going to come down to the option for taxonomies. As you can see, we can now create a new taxonomy. So let's click to add one in. Again, this looks very similar to the other boxes and options we've seen before. So let's give this a plural name, a singular name. And as you can see, the slug is automatically created. Labels, again, we're going to leave all these as they are. Unless you have a reason to change them, these should be perfectly fine for most use cases. Come into advanced. So again, we've got options inside here on how we want to configure taxonomies. So let's quickly run through some of the key ones. Description, we already know. This just helps people see what these taxonomies are for. Public, is it available on the front end? Yes. Is it publicly queryable? Again, we want to make this something that can be filtered and searched again, so queryable makes sense. Hierarchical, yes, we're going to do that just from the fact it just makes things a lot nicer on the front end if you're not using a hierarchy. Showing the UI in the menu, in your nav menus, showing the edit page. All these things, generally, you're going to leave them all enabled. There's not many use cases where you wouldn't want them to be. Showing tag cloud, if you don't use it, I just disable it. In quick edit, it is useful because then when you want to quick edit a particular recipe, it's already there. And do you want to show in an admin column? Yes, we do. Do you want to prepend? Again, that's a personal preference. Do you want to have that taxonomy name at the beginning and then the name of the recipe, for example? It's up to you. Hierarchical URL, again, you can choose to whether or not. Do you want to use the query variable? Yes, we're going to leave that as it is. And do you want to make these sortable? So we say, yes, we do. Finally, we've got our post types. This allows us to choose what this taxonomy relates to. By default, you can see us using the native post function. We don't want that. We're going to disable that. We want to connect it to our new custom post type of recipes. So we'll choose that option from there and click publish. So that's now our custom taxonomy set up. If we come over to recipes, you'll see we now have recipe types, which is our custom taxonomy we've just created. Let's add, come in here, and we're going to say what recipe type this is. So we've added 3 different taxonomy entries in. Now let's go and edit our risotto recipe. And You see now over on the right hand side, we can open this up. We'll say this is for dinner and for lunch. You can have multiple taxonomies associated. We'll hit save. And now if we go back and take a look, you can see there's our risotto, the number of servings, and you can see this is recipes and lunch and when it was published. So this is how we can take MetaBox and be able to create custom post types, how we can take meta fields and associate those with our custom post type or associate them with the normal native WordPress posts and pages and so on. And then how we can organize and structure our data information using taxonomies. So using a combination of these three key principles inside MetaBox, you can create and add in and organize lots of different kinds of data. Now, there are still lots of things you can do with MetaBox that'll go way beyond what I've covered in this foundation video. I would recommend checking this playlist out that's going to get you up to speed with various different options. And keep an eye on it because there's going to be a lot more added over the coming weeks and months covering MetaBox and how we can integrate that into other things like Bricks Builder, for example, and how we can start building out websites using this kind of data structure. As always, all applicable links are in the description. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.